What's up guys, Steve from Exclusive Wraps here. We're bringing you another Flow Designs install video, this time on the all new i20N. Now if you want to take your car from this to this, stay tuned. Alright guys, step one, we're going to install the rear spats and winglets on the back of the i20N. What you're going to need, obviously some spats and winglets to start with. You're going to need an 8mm drill bit and a drill, flathead screwdriver, 4mm Allen key Torx bit or an Allen key itself, and a texter or a pencil. And this, a 10mm ratchet spanner. First up, we're going to take our flathead screwdriver and remove the two clips that you can see right here underneath the bumper. They should just pop out nice and easy, like so. This will allow you to pull back this liner. Beware, if you've driven this car for any small amount of Ks, you're probably going to get showered with rocks. Next up, take your texter or pencil and your rear spat, and you're going to, make sure that's still in there, line up the rear spat with the underside of the rear bumper. So this curve here needs to follow this curve here. You got to. Also, this little notch cut out on the back section is going to line up with a similar notch that you can see here. Now that we've marked our holes, take your 8mm drill bit and your drill and punch some pilot holes in there. Next, pull your guard liner down a little bit so you have access to the back. Grab your rear spat and winglet and combine them together, assuming you have winglet. If you don't, the process is exactly the same, just without the winglets obviously. Take your bolt and washer combo. Now I'll just mention, these flow washers have some really cool embossed text on there. If you put them facing down, obviously it'll give you a nice effect if you're, I don't know, getting run over by somebody, or if someone's getting run over by you rather, they're going to look up and go, wow, Flow Designs. Anyway, you can put them on either way, but that's a cool little touch. Grab that, insert it through the spat and winglet, take another washer and you're going to put that on the inside and install the nut on top. Next, take your 10mm ratchet spanner and your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit and tighten up those bolts. Remembering not to over tighten these too much, because now is going to be your opportunity to adjust how far in or out your winglets sit. And finally, you can tuck the guard liner back in, take the two clips that you removed earlier, pop those back in, and you're done. Next up guys, we're going to install the rear flow lock diffuser. What you're going to need for this one is a 6.5mm drill bit, an 8mm and a 10mm. You're also going to need your trusty flat screwdriver, your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit, your 10mm ratchet spanner, and of course a texter or pencil. You'll also need a 3mm Allen key for installing these two bolts on either side. Alrighty, first up we're going to take our flat screwdriver and we're going to remove these push clips, there's 4 of them along here, and unscrew these hand fasteners underneath. There is also a third fastener just up the back here that you can unscrew also by hand. Now that we've got the under tray off, we're going to take our flow lock fins and click them into the diffuser. Take note, Flow has gone to the effort of engraving the fin numbers on the diffuser and the fins, so you can't get these in the wrong spot. If you do get them in the wrong spot somehow, they are a little bit tricky to remove, so just pay attention. R2 corresponds with R2, R1 with R1, and so on and so on. Now, obviously by now you've figured out that the diffuser is a two-part install for this one, because you've obviously got the exhaust breaking that up. That's fine, doesn't change the way we install this. First thing you're going to want to do, now that we've got the fins on, is clip this into place. These fins are going to basically give you the exact location you need to get the diffuser in to drill your holes and fasten it. So the fins are going to sit either side of the factory fins on the rear bumper here, and they're going to hook over that little top ledge like so. Now at this point, guys, take a moment to make sure you're aligning the factory fin right in the center of the pair of fins on the flow lock diffuser, and also have a look underneath. Is lining up with the center of this fin here, because that's where you're going to be drilling your holes to fasten the diffuser to the bumper. Keep this diffuser pushed in fairly firmly, fairly tightly when you're marking your holes. The reason for this is if you let it sag a little bit, the fins are going to pull away from the bumper and you're going to get not a really nice fit. Another thing to take note of, guys, before you go drilling holes, if you've got the diffuser in the right spot, these notches are going to line up with this edge, you can see right here, of the factory bumper. So you've got one there, you've got one over here, and one more over here. And if that's all sitting in the right spot, the back of this diffuser is essentially in line with that part of the rear bumper there. So now that we've got this sitting where we want it, the next step is going to be take your pen or pencil and mark all of these holes whilst you're supporting the diffuser so that it's sitting nicely, and then we can pre-drill our holes. Alrighty, now we've marked our holes, we're ready to start drilling. Remember, we've got 3 different size drill bits here. So you've got your 6.5mm holes, which are going to be the ones in between the diffuser fins. You've got your 8mm hole, which is going to be the one right here in the center. And then you've got your 10mm, which is going to be the one on the outside. This one utilizes the little rubber and brass compression, I don't know what you call these, they're kind of like a nut, compressors inside the bumper. So you want to mark that, pre-drill it with a 6mm first, and then put your 10mm hole in there. Now that we've got all our holes drilled, we're going to take our 10mm rubber nuts, and these install in either side, like so. Next, we're going to take the main diffuser, reinstall it on the bumper, and start inserting our nut and bolt combos. Take note of the nuts and bolts that come with this diffuser. You get one long 35mm one. That's going to go right here in the center portion of the diffuser underneath that tail light there. These 6 bolts with the smaller washers are going to go in between these fins here and obviously this one here. And the 2 smaller ones with these different style washers are going to go into the very end holes you see here in those rubber nuts that we just installed, which is actually behind that piece right there. Rightio guys, just a quick note for you. The middle bolt here, which is your longest one, the one individual 35mm, is quite tricky to get to. It's not impossible, you don't need to remove anything else. It's a good idea to unplug this plug. Just unclips like that for that tail light. Don't forget to plug it back in when you're done. And when you come at it, if you pull the bumper down like this a little bit, you can usually slide your hand in far enough to hold the nut in there while you tighten that up. Alternatively, you have got a push clip here, similar to the ones that hold in this under tray that we're going to put back in a second. If you undo that, that's going to give you a little more flex in the rear bumper here and a bit more room for your hand. Right guys, now that we've got all of the bolts tightened up, the diffuser is installed, we're going to take our under tray, reinsert this, keeping in mind you need to thread those threaded inserts through the holes. There we go. Hand tighten your, I don't know what you call these fasteners, but you need to hand tighten these. Whoops, don't throw them away. And lastly, take your 4 clips and push them back in. Voila, that is your diffuser installed. Next part of our tutorial, guys, is going to be the front splitter, winglets and extensions. So what you're going to need to install the front splitter, winglets and extensions is your 8mm drill bit, a 10mm socket or a spanner, socket helps a lot, your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit, your flat screwdriver, and some clamps or a friend with Gorilla Grip. First things first, guys, as per most of these, take your flathead screwdriver and we're going to remove these clips that run all the way under the under tray, all the way down there and to that back corner as well. And then you're going to take your 10mm socket or spanner and remove these bolts here. Next up, grab some clamps and clamp the splitter in place. Or if you don't have any clamps, grab a friend and get them to hold on real tight while you start pre-drilling your holes. Quick note, there is a little notch cut out of your diffuser, of your splitter, sorry, right here, that lines up with this plastic part of your bumper. So make sure that when you clamp it in place, this lines up before you drill your holes. Alrighty guys, so next we're going to just quickly run you through the bolts that you're going to use on this one. You've got 8 of these 30mm bolts and you've got 4 25mm ones. So it's important you keep these separate. The 25mm ones, you're going to use 2 bolts per side. They are going to be your outermost holes. So these 2 here, right, on either side. Next, your 4 30mm bolts with 8 washers, so you're going to use 2 per bolt and 4 nuts, are going to be the next 2 holes along. So you've got your shorter ones out here, then the next 2 are going to go here on either side. And then finally, you've got 4 more 30mm bolts with a single washer and these brackets that are going to loop over the crash bar. They are going to go in the center here. So they are your middle 4. Now take your 8mm drill bit and start putting in your pilot holes. So now that we've drilled all our holes, I'm going to start by installing the outer bolts first and work my way into the center, at which point we'll show you how to get those brackets in on the crash bar. So this here is the crash bar that we're going to install these brackets over. What you want to do is take your bracket and start right at the end here, slide it around the bar, and it's a little bit fiddly, but you can slide it all the way along. I promise it's not as difficult as it looks. Oh, I swear I did. There we go. There we go. Slide it all the way along. There's the hole we drilled. There's the hole in the splitter. And there is the threaded part of the bracket that needs to line up with. So they all sit in line there. You do the same for each of these brackets. You have 4 of them. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Fuck, okay. Now that we've got the front splitter installed, the last things we need to do are get the extensions and winglets on there. So if you look underneath the splitter, you have a bunch of gold threaded inserts. They are where your bolts are going to go through. So this should line up like so. And as you can see, there are slots cut out of the underside of the extension, giving you plenty of room to adjust how this sits. Also, don't forget, the winglet utilizes the same 2 end slots or end holes as the extension does. So you're going to need to put a longer bolt through these ones, which will come in your kit, and you're going to use your shorter ones in the remaining holes. Now that we've got all those bolts installed, they're only just loosely placed in there. We can adjust how far in or out we want the extensions and the winglets to sit. Obviously, you can adjust these independently. Lastly, guys, I can't stress this enough. Those gold threaded inserts do not require you to tighten the bolts very tightly. So make sure you do it gently. If you tighten it too much, you're going to pull the insert out of the splitter, and obviously you don't want that. So just tighten it just enough, hand tight, no power tools, and it'll hold just fine. Now we've got everything installed, the last thing to do is reinstall the under tray. Rightio guys, and that is the front splitter extensions and winglets all installed. The next part we're going to install is the side splitters and winglets. All right, so the things you're going to need for this one are an 8mm drill bit and an 11mm drill bit. This is going to be for installing your jack nuts. You're going to need your 4mm Allen key or Torx bit, the trusty jack nut installation tool. This is going to make installing those jack nuts a lot quicker. If not, you can use the supplied jack nut installation tool, and we'll show you how to do that as well. And obviously the supplied template and nuts and bolts and things that come with it. First thing we need to do is take the template that comes with your kit. You can see this cutout matches perfectly with that one right there. Now that we've drilled our 8mm hole, we're going to take the 11mm drill bit, one hole, and insert a jack nut. Next, we're going to take the jack nut tool bolt and a jack nut. You're going to insert that into the jack nut. You want it to be protruding a little bit from the end. Take your tool and slot that in place. Squeeze the trigger a little bit and that's going to pull it nice and tight so you've got a good grip on it. Come along underneath, whoop, make sure it doesn't fall out. Push that in, pop and squeeze just like a rivet gun. Once that's as tight as it can go, pull this release trigger and that will let the bolt go. Now you can simply undo the bolt and there is an installed jack nut. If you haven't purchased the jack nut installation tool, which I'm sure many of you haven't, here's a quick look at how you use the supplied jack nut install tool. We're going to take the jack nut tool. So you're going to have it facing this way, put the washer on the bolt and feed that in on the side with the text. You're going to insert it into the jack nut and just hand tighten it until it stops tightening. There we go. Grab your drill and 10mm socket and tighten it up. And then back it off. And that is how you install the jack nut. Now that we've installed one of the jack nuts, you're going to take one of your bolts and a washer, and we're going to install it into that first hole that we drilled, which is actually the second hole along. So put that one in place. Helps if you have a friend holding the rest of this body kit, the rest of the splitter, sorry, so it doesn't sag down. Tighten that one up most of the way, and that is going to allow you to pre-drill all the rest of your holes. With the jack nuts installed, we can now take our bolts and install the splitter in place. With the splitter installed, we can take our winglets, if you've optioned them, 2 bolts and 2 washers per side, and insert them into the gold threaded inserts under the splitter. As with all the other winglets, don't over tighten these, and this is your chance to adjust how far in or out they sit. And then remember, once you do tighten it up, only do it hand tight because you don't want to pull those threaded inserts out.
Yeah.